Yemen and Oman are neighbors, sharing a long border on the southeastern tip of the Arabian Peninsula. They also share a similar arid climate and a rich maritime history, yet standing in the year 2025, they present a study in stark contrasts. Oman is a nation known for its remarkable stability, modern infrastructure, and a steadily improving quality of life for its citizens. Its cities are clean, its ports are busy with global trade, and its government functions as a stable force in a turbulent region. It has carefully navigated the complexities of Middle Eastern politics to maintain peace and focus on internal development, creating a narrative of progress and quiet prosperity that stands out among its peers. In sharp contrast, Yemen is a country grappling with immense suffering and profound instability. For years, it has been the epicenter of a devastating civil war, leading to one of the world's worst humanitarian crises. Its infrastructure lies in ruins, its economy has collapsed, and millions of its people face poverty, hunger, and disease. The promise of a unified, prosperous nation has been shattered by internal divisions, foreign interventions, and a near-total breakdown of governance. The very institutions that should serve the people, such as schools and hospitals, have become casualties of the prolonged conflict, leaving a generation of Yemenis with a deeply uncertain and perilous future. This divergence did not happen overnight. It is the result of different choices, different leadership, and different historical trajectories that began decades ago. While Oman embarked on a path of modernization and state-building under a single long-reigning ruler, Yemen was caught in a cycle of coups, civil wars, and political fragmentation. The story of these two nations is not just about luck or resources. It is a powerful lesson in how political stability and visionary governance can become the most valuable assets a country can possess. Understanding their journeys requires looking back at the critical decisions that set them on such dramatically different courses. The differences are visible not just in economic reports, but in the daily lives of their people. An Omani citizen has access to modern healthcare, a functioning education system, and opportunities for employment within a growing public and private sector. A Yemeni citizen, however, often struggles for the most basic necessities: clean water, reliable food supplies, and safety from violence. This fundamental gap in human security and development is the most telling indicator of their divergent fortunes. The key question, therefore, is not simply what happened, but why it happened, and what foundational elements allowed one neighbor to thrive while the other spiraled into crisis. The modern histories of Oman and Yemen are fundamentally shaped by their political leadership. In Oman, the pivotal moment came in 1970 with the accession of Sultan Qaboos bin Said. He took over a country that was isolated and severely underdeveloped, with only a handful of schools and a few kilometers of paved roads. Sultan Qaboos initiated a period of rapid, centrally controlled modernization, which he called the Omani Renaissance. He used the country's newfound oil wealth as a tool for state building, unifying disparate tribes and regions under a single national identity. His long and stable reign, continued by his successor Sultan Haitham, provided the predictability needed for long-term planning and development. Yemen, on the other hand, has a history marked by deep-seated division and relentless conflict. After gaining independence from British rule in 1967, South Yemen adopted a Marxist government that led to internal power struggles and economic decline. The unification with North Yemen in 1990 did not resolve these underlying tensions, instead culminating in a destructive civil war in 1994. Since then, the country has been unable to establish a strong centralized government capable of uniting its diverse tribal and political factions. This persistent instability created a power vacuum, allowing armed groups to flourish and inviting foreign intervention, which further fueled the cycle of violence and prevented any meaningful state building. Oman's leadership also made a critical choice in its foreign policy: neutrality. Sultan Qaboos established a reputation for Oman as a discreet mediator, a friend to all, enemy to none. This approach kept the nation out of the region's many conflicts, insulating it from the proxy wars and rivalries that engulfed its neighbors. By refusing to take sides in disputes between Iran, Saudi Arabia, and other powers, Oman protected its own development and became a trusted diplomatic channel. This peaceful posture allowed it to focus its energy and resources inward on building the nation's infrastructure and institutions without the constant threat of external conflict derailing its progress. In stark contrast, Yemen became a battleground for regional powers. Its internal weaknesses made it vulnerable to outside influence, with countries like Saudi Arabia and Iran backing opposing sides in its civil war. This foreign involvement transformed a domestic political struggle into a devastating internationalized conflict, exacerbating the destruction and making a peaceful resolution incredibly difficult to achieve. Unlike Oman, which built protective walls of diplomacy, Yemen's fragmented governance left its doors wide open to intervention. This turned the country into a theater for proxy warfare, where the interests of the Yemeni people were secondary to the geopolitical ambitions of others, cementing its path towards state failure. Both Oman and Yemen were blessed with oil, but the way they managed this wealth tells a crucial part of their story. Oman discovered oil in the 1960s, but its reserves were modest compared to its Gulf neighbors. Recognizing this, Sultan Qaboos adopted a strategy of careful and strategic investment. The oil revenue was not squandered, but channeled directly into building the foundations of a modern state. This included constructing a national network of roads, ports, schools, and hospitals from scratch. The leadership understood that the oil would not last forever and used it as a catalyst for long-term sustainable development, aiming to diversify the economy for a future beyond fossil fuels. Yemen also has oil, but its revenues have been undermined by a combination of mismanagement, corruption, and conflict. Instead of being a tool for national development, oil wealth often fueled patronage networks and deepened political divisions as different factions fought for control of the resources. Production has been frequently disrupted by attacks on pipelines and blockades by militias, preventing a steady flow of income to the state. Furthermore, post-independence policies in South Yemen, such as nationalizing industries and closing the historic free port of Aden, stifled economic growth and discouraged the foreign investment that could have helped develop the country's resources more effectively. Oman's economic vision extended beyond simply spending oil money. The government actively encouraged foreign investment and avoided the nationalization policies that harmed other economies in the region. It focused on creating a stable and predictable business environment. A key part of this strategy was the development of world-class infrastructure to leverage its geographic locations, such as the major ports at Salalah and Duqm. These projects were designed to integrate Oman into global trade routes, creating jobs and economic activity independent of the oil sector. This forward-thinking approach, enshrined in long-term plans like Vision 2040, illustrates a clear commitment to economic diversification. Yemen, meanwhile, was unable to implement any coherent long-term economic strategy. The continuous state of conflict meant that any revenue that was collected was often diverted to military spending or lost to corruption. There was no capacity to invest in large-scale infrastructure projects that could create jobs or connect Yemen to the global economy. Its strategic location on the Bab el-Mandeb Strait, a critical shipping lane, became a security risk rather than an economic opportunity. The failure to manage its limited resources and build a diversified economy left Yemen exceptionally vulnerable, and when the war escalated, its fragile economic structures completely disintegrated. Geography has presented both nations with challenges and opportunities, but their ability to respond has been vastly different. Oman effectively leveraged its long coastline and its position overlooking the Strait of Hormuz, a choke point for global oil shipments. With the financial resources from its oil revenue, it built modern ports that have become vital hubs for international shipping and logistics. Oman also invested heavily in overcoming its environmental challenges, particularly water scarcity. It constructed large-scale desalination plants, ensuring a reliable supply of fresh water for its population and industries, thereby building resilience against the harsh realities of its arid climate. Yemen also possesses a strategic coastline, but insecurity has rendered it an economic liability rather than an asset. Its proximity to the Bab el-Mandeb Strait has become a source of global tension due to attacks on shipping, which has only deepened the country's isolation. Furthermore, Yemen's rugged, mountainous terrain makes internal development and governance difficult, while its status as one of the world's most water-stressed nations has become a full-blown crisis. Without the stability or funds to invest in infrastructure like desalination plants, its dwindling water resources are a major source of conflict and disease, compounding the suffering of its people. The ultimate measure of a nation's success is its investment in its people. Starting in the 1970s, Oman poured resources into education and healthcare, transforming a society with near-total illiteracy into one with a modern, educated workforce. This focus on human capital was supported by policies like Omanization, which aimed to provide employment for its citizens in both the public and private sectors. By creating opportunities and improving living standards, the government fostered a sense of shared progress and social cohesion. This investment in human development has been a cornerstone of Oman's stability and prosperity. In Yemen, generations have been lost to conflict. The war has destroyed thousands of schools and hospitals, and their healthcare system has all but collapsed, leading to outbreaks of preventable diseases like cholera. High rates of illiteracy and malnutrition stunt the potential of its youth, while the constant violence has triggered a massive brain drain as skilled professionals flee the country. The failure to protect and develop its human capital is perhaps the greatest tragedy of Yemen's story. In summary, the vast gulf between Oman's prosperity and Yemen's poverty stems from Oman's stable leadership and prudent use of wealth, contrasted with Yemen's chronic instability, mismanagement, and the devastating consequences of unending war.